Alright, ladies and gentlemen, in this video you're going to learn how to find the missing angle measure in a triangle or a quadrilateral using an equation and inverse operations, along with the understanding that the interior angles sum of a triangle is equal to 180 degrees and the sum of interior angles of a quadrilateral is equal to 360 degrees. Let's get started. First, we have our problem here, and we're trying to find out the green angles here. You'll notice that we don't really know the measures of any angles, at least they're not written down. But what we need to understand is that this symbol right here tells us this is 90 degrees, and these symbols over here tell us that these two angles are congruent. If they're congruent, that means they are the same, and we could write out an equation that looks like this. 90 plus x degrees is equal to 180 degrees. So I'm just going to label that x. First, we want to combine our two variable terms here, and we have to realize that the coefficient in front of that variable term is 1x plus 1x. And 1 plus 1, when you add the coefficients, is equal to 2x. The next step would be to subtract the constant in this equation. So we want to get rid of this so we can isolate our variable. When we subtract the 90, that's going to get it to where we're left with 2x is equal to 90. We subtracted it from both sides. That's the subtraction property of equality. And if we know that 2 times x equals 90, then in order to find out what 1x is, we're going to divide both sides by 2, the division property of equality. And 90 divided by 2 is equal to 45 degrees. And I always like to look at this measure. Once I know that both of these angles measure 45 degrees, I look at it and see if that makes sense. And it is an acute angle, and it appears to be about half of a 90-degree angle. So that is, or makes sense. Let's look at another example here. Again, we know that the sum of interior angle measures of a triangle is equal to 180 degrees. And what we're going to do is we're going to set up the equation 110 degrees plus 34 degrees plus this angle is equal to 180 degrees. First, we will, in this case, add our like terms, which happen to be two constants here. 110 plus 34, the constants add up to 144 plus x equals 180. The next thing we want to do is to try to get the variable by itself, or isolate the variable. So we're going to subtract the constant from both sides, and we're left with x is equal to 36. That is my answer. So now I go back and look at this. Does that appear to be about 36 degrees? And it seems reasonable. Moving on to interior angles of a quadrilateral. This time we're trying to find this missing angle right here. I'm thinking in my head already, it looks like it could be 45, a little bit bigger than 45 degrees. It's definitely an acute angle though. Now, in order to find this, I have to set up my equation first. 90 degrees plus 120 plus 98 plus x, that's what we're going to call this angle, x, is equal to 360 degrees. Anytime you forget how many degrees are in a quadrilateral, I just think of a basic square. And I know this isn't a perfect drawing here, but a square has 4 90-degree angles, and 4 times 90 is equal to 360. You can also use this understanding to remember the sum of interior angles of a triangle, because if you take this square and you cut it in half, and it looks more like a rectangle, if you cut it in half, you're going to have half the angle measures, and half of 360 is equal to 180. But let's go back to solving our problem. The first thing in this problem that I want to do is to combine my constants here. Okay, 90 plus 120 is equal to 210, plus another 98 equals 308 plus x equals 360. Our next step is to subtract that constant from both sides so that we get our variable by itself, or isolate the variable. And we use that subtraction property of equality when we do this. So we subtract 308 from both sides of the equation, and 360 minus 308 equals 52, and that's what we're left with. It would actually be x plus 0, and the identity property of addition tells us adding 0 to a value is not going to change its value. So x equals 52. Is that reasonable? Yeah, it looks like it's a little bit bigger than 45 degrees, so that makes perfect sense. Well, I hope this helped you to better understand how to solve interior angles for triangles and quadrilaterals. See ya!